kid, but I'll tell you this right now. If I've learned anything in 5 years of being married is we're always working on...
Why? They're not a race. They're not a religion. It's totally curable. That was in his eye, and it just made me nervous. I'm like, dude, this guy's volatile. He's making me nervous.
Hey, Steve, what do you got for us today? In 2035, there'll be no more apples. Thank you, Steve.
And this has always been a lifelong dream of mine to come here and host Saturday Night Live, so thank you so much for coming out.
Number 8. Rain on the Parade. Nobody is safe in Bill Burr's Netflix comedy special, Paper Tiger. Not even Stephen Hawking. But that's what fans love about the stand-up comic. His unfiltered opinions on a wide range of topics, from romance with robots, to male feminists, to Michelle Obama's book tour. Shot at London's famed Royal Albert Hall, this special found Burr unleashing a barrage of non-PC, curse-laden punchlines that had the jam-packed room roaring with laughter for 90 minutes.
Like, let's play a game. I'll just name different people you see, and see the slides that come into your head. Lesbian. Right? It all goes blank. Gotta go lesbian. Final answer, show me. Listen, people, I'm not saying all lesbians look alike. I would never say some ignorant shit like that. And I'm not saying 100%, but gun to my head, I gotta go lesbian.
In which comedy sketch will be considered complete without the gays getting some flack? Bill Burr didn't slack off, or mince any words with his outright observations, or his tongue-in-cheek banter. Who could accuse Burr of making ignorant remarks, but he seems to see lesbians as next-level macho. Number 7. In Bryan's defense. Burr spoke in defense of his Breaking Bad co-star Bryan Cranston, who was criticized by some for playing a paralyzed billionaire in the 2017 film The Upside. He spent a remarkable amount of time explaining how ridiculous it is that people ask Bryan Cranston why he took a role that a disabled actor might have potentially played. He presented his minor blip in one day's news cycle as further evidence that too much of America is always offending by everything. But it wasn't as if there was a genuine groundswell of fury directed toward the actor.
I'm a married man with a kid, but I'll tell you this right now. If I've learned anything in 5 years of being married is we're always working on... Crush all of that! All she has on me is who I am as a person. The real me. She's seen glimpses of me, like, oh, Daddy almost snapped his phone in half. By the way, this is gonna be my last show ever. By the time this fucking thing comes out.
There were some tweets, and then the press association, mostly in the UK, mind you, not even America, asked him about it. Cranston acknowledged the criticism, refused to apologize, and the movie made $122 million worldwide. The whole thing played out the way any actor would prefer. A complaint he found ridiculous was ultimately treated as such in the marketplace of ideas. What Bill seemed to be bothered by was the notion that the tiny faction which was upset with Cranston got to express their anger at all. For a guy so vigilant at the prospect of being silenced, he sure was upset that a minority of people were even allowed to voice an opinion. Still, love him or hate him, he had a point. Number 6. Weight problem. Bill Burr stays true to his comedic style of shocking the audience with his unabashed viewpoints and expertise.
Why? They're not a race. They're not a religion. It's totally curable. You know? Why are you yelling at everybody else? How is this my problem? Jesus Christ, you ate your way in, you can walk your way out. Instead of a bunch of ho-hos, and it's gonna come down with me. Shame! Shame!
Burr tackles a new set of politically incorrect topics, including fat shaming. As always, Burr chooses to say the things that no one should say, and always wins the audience back with his wit and authenticity. As in his previous specials, he delights in making the audience feel uncomfortable and eliciting laughter from the most off-limit topics, though he did take his humor a bit too far with his shame mantra this time. Number 5. Kanye gets roasted. At another point, he discussed the banal topic of Kanye West's inflated ego. In classic Burr fashion, he took a fresh perspective on the dangers of such a personality type, but not before making a wild claim to shock the audience. He said after hearing a West interview, his thought was, "Thank God it's just a black guy." At first glance, this seemed like a racist statement.
One of the first people that got into Kanye West. So my wife got freaked out because I told him, like, early on she was loving the guy that was in his eye, and it just made me nervous. I'm like, dude, this guy is This guy's volatile. He's making me nervous because one day I came walking in and she was listening to him do an interview and I didn't know it was him. Like literally a chill ran down my spine and I just started thinking like, no.
Jumping to conclusions will have viewers missing out on the humor and a thought-provoking statement about racism. He makes the point that if such a big ego ended up in a white guy, he would probably have another Hitler on our hands. So, in a way, as Burr pointed out, it is good this trait ended up in a black guy because the systemic racism in our society will keep him from ever accomplishing anything more impactful than offending some people and interrupting award shows. Burr managed to make people laugh by drawing a humorous parallel between West and Hitler, while acknowledging the issue of systemic racism. Number 4. Stephen Hawking. While discussing the possible dangers of artificial intelligence, Burr segued into a bit about the deceased theoretical physicist and cosmologist Stephen Hawking. He had some pretty witty yet spicy stuff to say about the legend. One can get farther from being politically correct by joking that one can't stand a crippled guy who actually died.
And the reporter's asking him questions, and in the end he goes, so tell us. He's like, what are your goals? Yeah. And the reporter just blows by it. He's like, okay, and what's your favorite color? How many sci-fi movies do you have to see before you realize where this is going?
Oh, I care so much. I poured ice on myself.
But that's where the genius of Bill Burr lies. He says the worst things in the possible way. His observations that every super smart person in the world is convinced that AI is one step towards extinction. Even your boy here, the guy who recently died. What was his name?
Hawkins, Stephen Hawkins, yeah. Hey, Steve, what do you got for us today? In 2035, there'll be no more apples. Thank you, Steve. Hey, so what's the solution? It's too late. We needed to try 40 years ago. Thanks a lot, buddy.
He was always sitting down. Hawking. Stephen Hawking. Yeah, too good to be fucking stand up and make his point, just sitting down all fucking smarmy. Who has ever had the guts to call Stephen Hawking smarmy? Had the guy still been around, Bill would have gotten his ears synced in the most intellectual way possible. Just think about it. Yes, Bill, he's definitely up there in heaven, living it up. Number 3. Cancel culture gets canceled. Comedian Bill Burr is well known as a controversial entertainer. He often finds himself in hot water for the things he says in his stand-up comedy. Of course, none of the backlash ever deters Burr from the throes of cancel culture. During Burr's appearance on SNL in October 2020, the comedian made some pretty interesting comments in his opening monologue. Burr took aim at cancel culture during his 7-minute spiel.
And this has always been a lifelong dream of mine to come here and host Saturday Night Live, so thank you so much for coming out, that you're wearing masks. I like people who wear masks. Peep shows back in Times Square. Old people can walk safely 40 blocks away. They're like, did you hear what he said in that interview in Playboy in 1970?
Saying that it's gotten to the point where they're literally running out of people to cancel. They're going after dead people now. They're trying to cancel John Wayne. It's like God did that 40 years ago. At the end of his monologue, Burr started talking about Pride Months, where he asked if a month is a little too long for the celebrations. Many people were quick to react to his monologue.
The woke movement was supposed to be about people of color. And then somehow, white women swung their Gucci-booted feet over the fence of oppression. I've never heard so much complaining in my life from white women. My name is Burr. Yeah, that's what you did. That's what you did. So why don't you shut up?
Saying, how about you not pick hosts who says things like, gays weren't enslaved, even if his joke is to point out black people suffered more. One user tweeted. Number 2. Woke movement and white women. The notoriously provocative stand-up comedian performed a routine, which called out white women for hijacking the woke movement, and he wasn't wrong. He wasn't saying anything controversial.
Have a little empathy here. Put yourself in a lesbian's shoes. Who do lesbians date? And I was thinking like, oh my God, I did that. Trying to get them to take responsibility for their actions. Not gonna happen. They're crying. You're apologizing. You're thinking, what the fuck just happened? How am I losing? losing this shit. And then you see some bald idiot with a giant orange mustache, and you're like, you know what? Why don't you take some of that shit?
He asked how white women jumped the line and how so many have hijacked the fight for equality when so many of us enjoy so much more privilege than women of color. Except he said it in a hilarious way. Number 1. Anti-vaxxers. Bill Burr is not afraid to push boundaries. He dabbles in a little bit of everything, and he's been known to ruffle some feathers from time to time. While he may be controversial, he always stands by his guns and continues doing material he finds insightful and/or funny, which he did when he went after anti-vaxxers. In a recent appearance on Conan, Bill Burr utilized a slightly different approach to handling this topic.
You look like I'm at a younger age. I look at like I'm now. And I liked it right around when he started dating Lori Beth. Yeah. Sorry, that was a deep cut. Happened, and this is just some shit people made up. You go on the internet, everything is presented.
Burr wielded a combination of humor and twisted logic to speak to vaccine skeptics. Burr noted that if our evil overlords actually wanted to cause a mass extinction, then perhaps it wouldn't be in their best interest to target the sheeple.
I'm like, you know, if they like they're trying to kill me, which doesn't, that conspiracy, I love a conspiracy, doesn't make any sense. Population control? No, because what they would do, they would be killing all what they call the sheeple. If you want to say that they're going to come up with something to thin the herd, I will go with that, but they would never do a pointed attack.
I.e., the obedient, brainwashed masses who agreed to take the vaccine. Burr compared anti-vaxxers to Fonzie from Happy Days, being too cool to listen to the man. And if those rebellious leather jacket-clad vaccine skeptics are the only ones left alive, then perhaps those evil overlords might just have engineered a serious problem by removing those helpfully submissive sheeple. Burr, of course, is mocking vaccine skeptics, but by utilizing a perverse kind of logic that corresponds to their worst fears, perhaps Burr might prompt some to laugh at the idea, and maybe even themselves. Burr went on to target the lowest hanging fruit of the conspiracy theory world, flat earthers, and provocatively joked about wanting the pandemic to continue just to ease traffic congestion. That's all we have for you folks. Join us next time.